Okay, hello, and welcome to the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. This week, I'm going to be fighting with a few things. One, this microphone that is awkwardly placed in front of me. I know it's blocking a lot of the shot. Soon in the future, I'll have a better setup. But it's better than the microphone that I've been using in the past where I hold it. It's like a dainty little thing. Two, I'm going to be fighting with the heat. So by the end of this episode, I'm going to be sweating my little butt off. I'm also going to be fighting with the lawnmowers, the people mowing their yards outside, because it's right below the window. So the audio is definitely going to pick up a handful of these things. Me bumping the microphone. You might catch the audio of the sweat dripping on the ground because it's so fucking hot. But also, yeah, again, just preemptively, I apologize for the lawnmowers in the back. So what's going on today is Christian Fisher and Spencer Ziegler of Concave Notions are going to be coming over, and we're going to be shooting the music video for their next song. Also, I apologize, Judah's getting a drink. That is also getting picked up. Today we're just kind of on the fly, right? We're a lot less prepared than we usually are going into these podcasts, and we're already wildly unprepared when we do these episodes. But anyways, we are working on the next Concave... Jeez, Judah, she's choking. Sorry. We are working on the next Concave Notions music video. The last one was done for Panic Bleed, which I don't know if I will have it in the link below. If I can remember, I'm going to put it in the link below. But the main thing is, we worked on that music video back in... Man, it might have been November, December, or January. I can't exactly remember when we did it, but then it came out in April. The inaugural debut Concave Notions single. I've become very good friends with the guys in Concave Notions. I was already friends with Spencer beforehand, but I've become pretty good friends with Christian as well. Christian, otherwise known as Blades. He's also in another band called Settle Your Scores, which has done really well. Both of the guys have been guests on the podcast in the past. But the main thing is today we are starting a long weekend of working on that music video. I should get things out of the way if you listen to the last episode. My dog was headed into surgery in the last episode, and there was some pretty big fear that there was a possibility that she didn't make it out of surgery. That did not prove to be the case. She is okay. Obviously, she's getting drinks of water. She's on pain meds. She's on antibiotics. It was a bit touch and go. I got a call from them saying that, her blood levels were elevated. Her liver levels were elevated. I don't know what that means or what the numbers mean specifically. I just know that they weren't looking great overall. But she has had 25 teeth pulled, and I think she's got 5 or 6 remaining, something like that. She's got her buck teeth, her canines, and then maybe 1 molar in the back. So she's an old granny right now. But yes, thank you very much to everyone for sending their well wishes. Again, there was a lot of fear associated with that surgery. If you're interested in the big, long history of my life with my dogs and a lot of the stresses going into that, feel free to check out the last episode. It was called My Old Baby. But today is a lot more pleasant. I just wanted to at least catch you up on the fact that Judah is doing okay. And we are now in her elder years. So any time that I have with her going forward, I recognize is borrowed time. She's an old dog with cancer, who has also been diagnosed with Cushing's disease. But no matter how long she has left in life, she at least will be more comfortable because she won't have infected teeth going forward. Sorry, you're going to hear a noise here. I'm just going to adjust the microphone. Ooh, there we go. Okay, there we go. That way we have a little bit more of my face in the video version, which I'm sure you're all wildly delighted by. So anyways, this last week was my birthday. On Tuesday, it was my birthday, so 2 days ago, as of recording this. It is now Thursday, June 12th. My birthday was June 10th. And a handful of things. Gosh, where do I even start? For starters, I had a few friends come out bowling. I've really enjoyed bowling on my birthday for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's just become a thing that I enjoy doing. I'm not very good But I had the guys from Midwest Skies come out, my girlfriend Emma, John Kelly, Spencer Ziegler, and his girlfriend both came out. Just a small little group. I have this weird, I've done over the years of this podcast a few episodes about birthdays and how weird they make me feel. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's a depression thing, a middle-aged thing, or what. Which obviously, given the average lifespan, I'm close to being middle-aged, which is a weird, I think a deeply weird thought process. I think the middle age is 6. Or that was 36. And I am 31 now, so I'm getting close. I guess to give myself a little bit of grace, I'm half a decade away from being middle-aged, which is, verbally to process that feels weird, but also it helps me feel like maybe I've still got a few years left until I can start spiraling. But no, so we went bowling, played a little bit of pool, had some drinks, and it was fun. I like just getting a small group together. I don't like it to be, obviously, as we've discussed on this podcast, I am what you can consider a soft narcissist, which means, yes, I like the attention on me from time to time. Sue me. But big crowds where it's all about me is a bit strange. I say that recognizing that it's a bit strange that I'm in a band where I like it to be all about us, but that's more of an us thing. I'm not like an introvert in that way. I do like big crowds. I like being a big part of the crowd. I'm not like insecure necessarily when it comes to being looked at or perceived. Sometimes I am. I'm insecure about my own body, and I do hate myself. But if people declare to like me, I like being in groups where people are telling me they like me, i.e. bands or when it's my birthday. But anyways, we did all that. And then the next day, I'm at Emma's and she's about ready to leave for work. And lately, she's been hooking me up with Subway coupons. I don't know how she gets them, if she gets them in the mail or what, but I really enjoy Subway. I know many people don't. That's a you problem. I think I read once, so this is not an original thought, that like if your Subway sandwich is gross, that's because you made it. You picked the wrong things. Obviously, I know that's not totally true, but I love Way sandwiches. Wow, I'm slurring here. I love Subway sandwiches. I just get a veggie sub. I get lettuce, spinach, green pepper, banana pepper, extra pickle, the new Sub Crunch, and then honey mustard, salt and pepper. Walk out with a chocolate chip cookie. God, so good. Oh, and Swiss cheese and avocado spread. I forgot about all that. On an Italian herbs and cheese bun or a multi-grain sub. Anyway, so she hooks me up with Subway coupons. And then underneath that is a Jimmy John's coupon. And she's like, here, I got you some coupons for your birthday. It was obviously a bit, but like, I'll take coupons. Any sort of discount, hook me up, dog. And so she hands them to me. And I'm flipping through the coupons, going like, ooh, I'll definitely use this. I'll use this. And in between two subsets of coupons, there's a piece of paper that is handwritten, good for one trip to see Blink-182. She got Blink-182 tickets for September. And man, what a gift. This will be my 4th time seeing Blink-182. And I've seen aside from their first original run, I've seen every lineup of Blink-182. So I didn't see them when they had Scott Raynor, the drummer. And I obviously didn't see them before they broke up for the first time in 2004, I think they broke up. But I saw them in 2011 on the Honda Civic Tour with My Chemical Romance and Matt and Kim. That was the first time I ever saw them. And then I saw them when Tom DeLonge left and Matt Skiba of Alkaline Trio joined. I'm not going to make this a whole thing about Blink-182. I've already done an episode about Blink-182 on my way to see Blink-182 the most recent time. But yeah, when Matt Skiba joined after Tom DeLonge left, I saw them with A Day to Remember and All Time Low. And then I also saw them this most recent time thanks to a friend of mine, Michael Stevens, somebody I met when I used to work at the news station. He's the chief meteorologist there. He somehow got an extra ticket to see them on their One More Time tour, which was their reunion tour as they got back. So that was with, I think it was just them and Turnstile. I don't think there was any other act, and if there was, I kind of forgot who it was. But man, what a show. What a band. I love them very much. It's, it's a cool experience to be able to get to see Blink-182, especially if you're like a huge fan of them, but they also just put on a fun show. But this tour will be with Alkaline Trio. So obviously Tom DeLonge came back to the band, so Matt Skiba was no longer in it. This tour is with Alkaline Trio that Matt Skiba is in. So very easily you could see Matt Skiba hopping on for a couple songs that they wrote while he was in the band. There's a couple of Alkaline Trio songs that I know and enjoy, but I don't know Alkaline Trio super well. So this is also an excuse to like get into Alkaline Trio, and that'll be fun. I'm realizing, sorry, I'm looking at the. Never mind. Screw it. Whatever. Not important. I'll fix that later. Anyway, so yeah, she got me tickets to see Blink-182 for what will be the fourth time, and that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be a really cool experience. It'll be her first time seeing Blink-182. So yeah. Now, the thing that I did Friday, which is probably the title of this episode, or is in the title of this episode. I'll figure this out. Maybe it might be. Anyways, I did mushrooms on Friday. And that was one of the best mushrooms experiences I've ever had. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast, but I've done mushrooms a handful of times, and it's not even really like, I mean, I guess technically it's taboo. It's not culturally taboo in my opinion. And it's also not that big of a deal. The more you do mushrooms, the more you realize, like, why the fuck is this illegal? It's definitely psychedelic and brain altering, and it's wild. But there's so much peace and joy and happiness associated with mushrooms that, like, of course, hippie culture has... you associate mushrooms with, like, hippie peace bullshit, but there's some truth to that. There's so much joy in them. And this time around I did a gram. I think if I'm not in double digits of doing mushrooms, it's definitely very close. I've never done more than, I think, just over 2, maybe 2.5 grams. I didn't really try to go for like crazy heroic doses or whatever. And 1 gram will do you. 0.5 gram will do you, but 1 gram is the sweet spot between a microdose and like a heroic dose. You definitely get the full psychedelic experience. So I take the mushrooms. It is an intense come up. Look, I also want to say, like, while I definitely think that they should be legal and I really enjoy them and they're a lot of fun and I can handle myself on them, not everybody can. This isn't me necessarily recommending mushrooms, but I love them. So anyways, I take them. I usually like to go in with an empty-ish stomach, but I hadn't eaten much in that day. I think I didn't take them until around 2 or 3, I can't remember. So I needed to eat a handful of things. I had like a potato roll and I had maybe half an apple or something like that. I can't remember. I had something more than nothing. But usually I like to go in with an empty stomach because throughout the day, you don't really have much of an appetite. And also during the come up, it can be a little intense on the stomach. So you kind of got to be careful about what is in your stomach. You don't want to be too heavy going into it because it's definitely intense and it like makes you focus on your organs. So if that's too much, sometimes you might be inclined to throw up, or, the other end as well. But so yeah, you try to go in with a lighter, if not empty stomach, so none of that happens. And then throughout the day, you kind of have more of an appreciation for food and hunger. At least for me, who I declare often am in the throes of a food addiction. It's nice on mushrooms to be like not concerned about eating food beyond, or as like a utility. I'm not concerned about eating food as a utility. It's something I do kind of passively if I'm bored or anxious or whatever. I just eat and eat and eat because it's near me, or because I'd rather not do something else that I'm supposed to do or whatever. But on mushrooms, you kind of only eat when you're hungry. So I get some light stuff around. I've got grapes. That's like one of my favorite things to have on mushrooms, because you can just kind of pop them in your mouth. They're very sweet, and it's kind of hard to eat a billion grapes alone, let alone when you're on mushrooms. So again, it's something sweet. It's small. I can eat until I'm content, not until I'm full. It's hard to get full on grapes. And then having a lot of water nearby is nice. Just because, again, I don't know, yes, there's like hippie culture associated with it, but it also kind of taps you into this like, how do I say this without sounding like a pretentious douche? It makes you more aware of the whole like, I am the earth thing. It makes you feel, I don't know if carnal is the right word, but I don't know, it feels, it's really hard for me to explain, especially in the relationship with food. Food is a big part of mushrooms for me because, again, I'm not obsessed with food in the moment. And you feel so light, and you're so aware of like what it's like to walk around the world and forage and only eat when you're hungry rather than as something that you do when you're bored. But beyond that, and I'm going to try to keep this brief because this is going to be a shorter episode. I believe that Christian and Spencer are actually on their way to my house here. So they're going to be here in the next 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to speed through this. The come up, very intense. So much so that I kind of need to lie down. If you're not familiar with the full arc of mushrooms, if you've never done mushrooms, it's sort of a waves experience. So it comes in and out in intensity. At first, there's like these like jitters of anxiety, not like nervousness, but more like, ooh, what's it gonna be like this time? And it's depending on how hungry you are or how empty your stomach is, it can be a quick ramp up, or it has to like digest with your food a little bit. So it takes a little bit longer. When you're hungry, it's just a quick ramp, and I was very hungry. So went from 0 to 100 real quick, probably within 20 minutes. The first thing that I notice usually when I'm on mushrooms is the awareness of like my skin or my body. Like the feeling of touching things is a lot more intense. Whoops, so I just bumped my microphone. So like when I'm stepping on a carpet, I feel the carpet a lot more. It's like a sensory thing. Placing my hand on like scratchy surfaces, I become more aware of that. Like touching my fingers, this is something that you can just kind of do passively and like not think about, but I feel what skin feels like when you're on mushrooms. That's a weird thing that you experience in the come up. And this is all subjective. Mushrooms is not an objective experience. This is just what I happen to experience when I'm on them. So that come up ramps. And I become hyper aware of, some people will be aware of their teeth, or I start getting aware of like electronics in the room. So I start to like hear the buzz of like a computer or a fan or like an air purifier, anything that's like happening regularly, normally in the background to become aware of. So I usually try to keep my electronics off. I personally like to have my phone off the entire time. A, because of the electronics of it all. B, because like I never want to be in a position where I am in the middle of a mushrooms experience and then I grab my phone and I habitually look at social media, because that is the fastest way to spiral. And anyways, so I'll keep my phone on Do Not Disturb, if anything, and I'll put it away from me with a preloaded playlist so I have music ready to go, so I don't have to keep selecting music. And then of course there's like the tropes, right? Like you'll start to notice how high you are by if you catch a reflection of yourself. If you catch yourself in the mirror or something, you just start to notice things you didn't always notice. So I usually try to encourage myself and other people not to go near mirrors. Not because you look distorted and fucked up. This is nothing like acid. This is nothing like LSD, which I've also done, which a handful of times, maybe 5 or 6. And maybe we'll do an episode on that in the future. I don't think I will probably, I can't imagine I will do LSD again, but I don't, never say never, right? It's a lot of fun, but LSD is a lot more hallucination based. You see things that aren't there. The way that I can best describe it is on acid, on LSD, you see things that aren't there, you feel things that aren't there, but you're in maybe in more control of your faculties in a way, like in control of your emotions. It's a lot more hallucination based, but it's also longer. With mushrooms, you feel things that are there a lot more. Emotions specifically. So when you're looking at yourself in a mirror, maybe you notice pores in a way that you haven't before, maybe blemishes or the way that your face looks, the symmetry of your face or whatever. But it's also easy to, like, once you start studying that, you recognize wrinkles and you start to think about like, man, I'm getting old. Where's all my life gone? That kind of thing. It's very easy to spiral in that moment. So I just try to stay away from mirrors as best I can, especially during the come up. And then, yeah, it's pretty intense for a little while. You feel your chest beat a lot more, or your heart beat in your chest a lot more. You get a bit warm. And then once that's over, the first wave of like vibrant emotion comes in, and vibrance in all the ways I can describe it. Color, especially, and I can even say this as a colorblind person, becomes more, I can observe color in a way that I don't always. It's not like I see colors that I don't normally see, because that's just something I can't do. My biology is rooted such that I'm not going to see certain colors you do, but the colors that exist are much, much more vibrant. The room begins to kind of glow a little bit. Everything becomes like stunningly beautiful. You see colors and things that aren't usually there. Not in like a, it's not there and I'm imagining this kind of way, but like, if I look at this monstera, I'll look at that and I'll go, oh, it's a green plant. But then it becomes green with like this yellowish hue, and I can see the way that the green gets darker in certain places, and the way that the yellow sort of glows and radiates energy and light. And it's really cool to like experience color that way. It's like you just take on whatever, any photo editing software, video editing software, it's like you just take the vibrance dial and crank it up to 100. But it doesn't look unnatural. It looks the most natural. Like, this is the way that life is supposed to be perceived. This is the way that I'm supposed to see things, and usually I just don't. So that's kind of that first wave for me. Then there's sort of an emotional wave. And I'll kind of explain sort of how I experienced emotions in just a minute, but this can mean a heightened sense of joy. It could mean if you're processing something really, really difficult in the moment, it could mean a heightened sense of sadness or grief, which, to be clear, is not a bad thing always. It helps you kind of process the emotion and feel the emotion rather than just experience the emotion. And it's good to be aware of these emotions, like especially if you're like burying something and repressing it. Mushrooms kind of breaks down that wall in a natural way. And again, for some people that can be overwhelming and, maybe too much. I sort of wait to take mushrooms until it's time for that. Like I try to make sure that I'm not repressing anything or that I am fully ready to feel all the feelings, because mushrooms is a humbling experience. If you think that you're going to be in control of the things you feel, usually, again, this is a subjective experience, not an objective experience. Usually you're wrong about that. You're not going to suddenly start seeing things that aren't there, and you're going to see demons that are telling you suck and whatever. But if you think you suck, you're going to start to assess why on mushrooms. You'll maybe trace some steps to your childhood or to traumatic experiences that, if you're alone while this is happening, can be a bit overwhelming because you don't want to think about these things. I love them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a punk house, it's a punk home. You can find this banner and others like it, as well as this silly goose on the loose hat, these etched mirrors, these custom charm bracelets, and so much more by heading to Cat and Crew, that's KATANDCREW.com, and entering the promo code MONDAY, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Katie and Andrew, one of the first supporters of this show, have made a 10% discount available for A.D.H.Deep-Dive listeners. See store for details, of course, but they've got so many cool punk home products, decor. You don't have to be a punk, that's okay, that's all right. Tattoos for your home, koozies, wall banners, a hot sauce. Oh my God, keep your eyes peeled for that. So again, if you want this is not a punk house, this is a punk home banner. If you want this silly goose on a loose hat, if you want etched mirrors, if you want custom charm bracelets, so much more, go to Cat and Crew, KATANDCREW.com, enter the promo code MONDAY, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you very much to Katie and Andrew for sponsoring the show. Let's get back to the podcast. There's also, well, for me, the way that I experienced it in this particular dosage of mushrooms was I fully expected to, because this was after Judah had her surgery, and had Judah not made it out of surgery, I would not have done mushrooms, because I know that I would have been in so much pain that it just wouldn't have made for a good mushrooms experience. I set an intention going into this experience and not an expectation. The difference between intention setting and expectation setting is huge. If you expect that something is going to happen, you will usually be humbled, because while you are in control of your faculties, you can't always meet your own expectations on mushrooms. But intention setting, I wanted desperately to just feel joy in a way that I haven't in a while, that I haven't allowed myself to for whatever reason. I just wanted to be happy while on mushrooms. And sometimes you gotta go through shit to get to happiness. So I fully expected maybe I'm gonna cry, so that I can process something to unlock the joy wave. And again, mushrooms kind of comes in waves. So in between all of these phases that I'm describing you is like a, whoa, that was wild. Couple minutes of like, man, I'm on mushrooms right now. And then you're in another wave. You're not transported anywhere. I could say this as many times as I want. You're not hallucinating things that aren't there. It's just all of a sudden things become a lot more intense and vibrant and full. So what I expected was to look over at Judah and Gus and cry, because they're getting so old and because I have yet to process the grief of what it would be like to lose them. But something I guess maybe that I'm realizing right now in real time is that I guess I have been processing what it will be like to lose them. It doesn't mean it's going to be any less painful when they do eventually go. But for a few weeks, I was accepting that Judah might not make it out of surgery. Gus, in my eyes, has been 100 years old for the last 6 years, if not more. So I'm constantly thinking about what it will be like to lose them, what my life is going to be like after they're gone. So when I expected to be, I might get emotional here. When I expected to be in pain when I looked at them, because like, man, it's gonna suck when I lose them, and I thought maybe I would spiral and cry about that. I was sitting on the ground and I was like rubbing the carpet, and usually when I like rub the floor in front of them, they see that as an opportunity to like come to me. They're like, oh, he wants us to come here. He's rubbing the ground in front of him because he wants us to be there. And I did that, and they came right to me, and I went from nothing to everything all at once, thinking that, again, preemptively, I thought maybe I would cry about the grief of losing them. I just felt so grateful for them. It will destroy me. I've said this plenty of episodes at this point. It will absolutely destroy me when they are gone. It's gonna hurt like a motherfucker. But in that moment, I felt so grateful for the time I've had with them, for how lucky I've been to have such intuitive dogs. And you know, maybe there's some evolutionary trait here in a psychological thing that like, they only came over to me because I rubbed the ground. And usually if I rub the ground, that means they're gonna get pets. And so they get something out of that. But I get something out of that as well. I get love, or what feels like love. And so I'm sitting there and I rub the ground and they both waddle over to me, and I lean over them and I just weep into them. I cry hard. And it was emotional again, in the sense that like, yes, I was aware, and I am aware that like the time I have with them is not promised. I am on borrowed time, but in a way that I haven't been able to feel before, I think. I was so grateful for the time I have had with them, and for this moment of seeing them as not just like a utility in my life, but something that like I so deeply value and love and care for. And so many times in my life, I've told myself that like love is fake, you know, that love is a construct made up as a utility to like combat loneliness, that we like tell ourselves we love something so that we can feel something more than ourselves. But I felt love in that moment. And yeah, I was crying because I was sad, sure, about what it'll be like in the future to not have them. But just to beat a dead horse here, I was so grateful for them in that moment. And I would consider that the peak, right? That was the peak. When you hear someone peaking on mushrooms, about someone peaking on mushrooms, that means they are experiencing the emotional, visual thing at the absolute highest that they're going to feel it. That was my peak. And it was really beautiful to share that with my dogs. Because again, for weeks at this point, I've thought it's possible that I don't have Judah anymore. And it did kind of help me get back in touch with how grateful I am for them. Because trust me, even since then, I've been really frustrated with them for just whatever multitude of reasons. But like, I'm able to appreciate the fact that they're just little creatures. They're just little beings. They're little permanent toddlers. So rather than just being angry at them all the time, I'm able to be a lot more aware of how much I'll miss these little behavioral issues when they are gone. I'm very grateful for my dogs in that moment. At which point, then it was time to go outside, which I realized I just said the trigger word out loud. I'm really glad that they didn't hear it, but it was time to go to the out. And I was right on a lake near a trail, like a walking path. And there's not really much to say about this beyond how visually cool it was. This is sort of what I mean about that, like, it gets you kind of in touch with like the carnal side of the human spirit, right? I was able to appreciate trees and nature and like natural beauty in a way that I don't always. You drive past a tree, you walk past some grass, it's just grass, it's just a tree, it's just a little flower over here. But when you're on mushrooms, it is the brightest, prettiest flower you'll ever see. It is the tallest, most immaculate tree you've ever seen. And you're able to appreciate, man, this thing must have been around for so long. This tree has seen so much and will continue to see so much. I looked up at a tree and I saw a squirrel sleeping on a tree. You're able to observe things that you wouldn't normally observe. You see patterns in like collections of trees that are swaying together, and you see these like, you see the woods breathe as the wind goes through it. You can feel the wind a lot more. There was cottonwood seeds floating everywhere, and it felt like a fucking Studio Ghibli film. Like, everything was so beautiful in a way that happens. It happens daily. It happens every single day, but you don't observe it in the way that you do when you're on mushrooms. I was also walking on a path where, like, you walk past a bunch of people's yards. Like, it's not going through their yards, but you can see from the path like people's backyards that are like divided by fences or whatever. And first and foremost, I walk past the yard where a dog is sitting out front, and I can see that he's looking. And I had this observation that, like, just like my dogs, this dog has his own unique life with his own family that he's like become dependent on, and he feels like he's their protector, but also needs them to be protected. And it was very cute to see that. But then as I'm walking past these other yards, I can hear like kids playing. I can see kids like playing tag and hide and seek. And then I saw some kids riding on their bike. And as I went past these yards where these kids were doing their own unique, or living their own unique lives, I kind of related to them in a way that, like, it felt like I was viewing chapters of my own life. Like, there are certain sounds that you hear that remind you of your childhood, like just like kids yelling and playing and counting down from 10 because they're about to go out and they're the seeker and everyone else is hiding. And how big those feelings must be for them in that moment, that like that's their whole world. The hardest thing that they did that day was finding their friend who hid really well. And then you walk past another yard where it's like this kid like on training wheels learning how to ride a bike, and how big of an experience that is for him. And yeah, you have this awareness of what your past is, and how quickly you've gotten away from it, and how far away from your past you are. But when I walked past these yards, like I said, it felt like I was viewing chapters of my own life, remembering times I played hide and seek or tag, or when I learned to ride a bike. And I'm also surrounded by like I said, these like cottonwood seeds flying through the air, and I can hear the wind on like a bright sunny day, and all the trees are vibrant and colorful. And I've got my hands behind my back, and I'm like leaning over, like studying this like an old man, like just viewing life. Yeah, it was a very powerful sensory experience. And then you come down to like the macro level, and you're like, there was a period of time where I was like sitting on the ground and I was looking at the grass, and you see the bugs, and you know, in a cliche way, I'm like transported to freaking Bug's life and how big of a world, you know, it was in that animated, well, whatever, when it was in that cartoon. The world is so big around them. Raindrops are huge, birds are huge. I see a bird like hopping through the grass, like looking for the same bugs that I'm looking at. And for all the ways that you can imagine when you think about hippie culture and mushrooms and psychedelics or whatever, the entire trip was the tropes. It was the awareness of nature, the feeling of joy, the foraging for grapes and nuts and berries and all that stuff. An appreciation for animals and life and the human spirit. And it was like I said, it was the best mushrooms experience I've had in a long time, because, if not ever, because of whatever I've talked about in a previous episode and videos I've made in the past. One of my core values is finding some way to be in touch with wisdom, to be a wiser individual. And it was at least 4 or 5 years ago that I did mushrooms the last time. And even though that's not that long ago, so much life has happened between now and then, so much pain, so much joy, so much change, that I feel like a wiser person, which made my appreciation for this experience so much deeper, because I have a greater understanding of what the world is and how the world works and who I am and what I feel and what I want and what I value. That again, mushrooms doesn't give you an experience that isn't real. It heightens the reality that you're already in. And so I was just able to feel this stuff so much deeper than I would have. I was able to appreciate the spectacle so much more than I would have in the past. And then it's just over. It's just sort of over at a certain point. There's a slow phase out of the waves, and the waves get less and less strong, and then you get more in touch with like whatever base reality is. And then you realize, damn, I've been walking around a lot. Damn, I haven't eaten in a long time. I am hungry. And so then David was back, and I feasted on grilled cheese and tomato soup. I think I also made a salad as well. But it was one hell of a mushrooms experience. Overall, it made for a great birthday. So again, I did mushrooms, then I went bowling with friends. I was messaged and contacted by people I love and care about telling me happy birthday. And then I got tickets to go see Blink-182, which will be happening in September. So beyond that, since then, I've been hammering out a wedding video that I shot a month ago that is just about finished. I just need to finish color correcting it, or color grading it, color correcting as well, I guess. I've got a new corporate project that is going to be due next week that I'm going to be painfully overwhelmed with over the next week. That's all I'm going to be doing from dusk to dawn. Dawn to dusk? All day is what I'm trying to say. And then this weekend, like I said, and very shortly, Spencer and Christian will be here. Let me actually see if they've updated me. Their ETA is 12:16. It is currently 11:56. So they will be here in the next 20 minutes. So Judah is doing okay. I am doing well. Things are happening creatively, personally. I'm busy. I'm feeling, if even for this short period of time, fulfilled. Midwest Guys has a handful of shows prepared, including Crew Fest, which is Cat and Cruz, friend of the show and supporter of the show. If I didn't put an ad up already, you can go to Cat and Crew, that's KATANDCREW.com. Enter the promo code MONDAY, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Friends of the show, Katie and Andrew Scavo, are launching their first music festival, but it's not just a music festival. There'll be tattoos there'll be live paintings, there'll be immersive experiences, there'll be tarot readers, there'll be a bunch of cool immersive stuff that you can do that they will talk about soon on the podcast. That is August 30th. So coming up, we've got July 19th. I'm talking about Midwest guys now. July 19th in Bay City. This is a house show. The address is not publicly available. It will be made publicly available 2 days before the event. But if you're interested in coming to that show, you can DM me and we can get you in. It is a free show, but we are encouraging people to buy their way in by just purchasing merch. So whether that's a sticker or a shirt or a poster or a badge or a pin or whatever, you're able to come for free and you don't have to buy anything, but it helps all the bands if you buy merch. Then we've got Crew Fest on August 30th. And then we're going back to Bay City for a headlining show. Details about that are going to be made available soon. They may already be available, but as of recording this, I don't know yet. And then the next day, we're going to be in Bowling Green, Ohio, back at The Bridge, which is a venue in Bowling Green. Great people out there. We're really excited to be back there. We had a great time the first time that we played. And they've been asking us to come back, and we've been wanting to go back, and it finally works out that we're going to make a weekender out of that September experience. So I'm going to literally see Blink-182 on the 17th, stay overnight, come back on the 18th. The 19th is the Bay City show. The 20th is going to be the Bowling Green show. And then from there, there's plenty more to announce coming soon. I hate to be that guy to be like, big things coming, but big things coming. Especially when Spencer and Christian get here. We're going to go out and do location scouting, buy some props for the music video that we'll be shooting tomorrow and Saturday. So it's going to be a big, busy weekend in preparation of a big, busy summer. So legally, I cannot say do mushrooms, but if you decide in the future that that sounds like something fun you want to do, my understanding is it is decriminalized in the city of Ann Arbor, and you can legally purchase them there. What you do with them from there on out is your prerogative. But I had a great time. I had a great birthday. Surrounded by people I love and care about, and I've got 2 dogs down beside me right now that I'm incredibly grateful for. So thank you very much for tuning into the A.D.H. Deep Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund, and I will see you next time.